Welcome to the channel, everyone. On this channel, we share stories of average Joes around the world and their not so average issues. Let's start with the first story. Entitled Mother Hires Me as a Nanny and Gaslights Me about money when I try to quit. I took a nannying job after I was told the child would be sleeping most of the time. He was often up past midnight, and poor parenting made him next to impossible to care for. I quit the job with plenty of notice. The mom gaslights me. I'm not a doormat. Here's the transcript of the text conversation of me quitting. Trigger warning, intense gaslighting and entitlement ahead. Me. Hello, her name. I wanted to let you know that I'm quitting babysitting. The job I've been doing while babysitting is not the same job I was hired for. I was told I would be putting child's name to bed and then sitting out in the living room while he sleeps. But that is not what I've been doing. I've been spending most of my time babysitting him while he's awake, often until or past midnight. His dependence on the TV and iPad has made caring for him extremely challenging. I'm grateful for the opportunity to care for your child, but this job is not a good fit for either of us. For the 3 nights I worked this past weekend, I'm owed $225, $75 per night. I would appreciate it if you Venmo that to me as soon as possible. Former employee. All right, I'll send it on the 15th. Hey, I have a lot going on earlier, but perhaps next time you consider figuring out your strategies or having a meeting to help develop a routine for the child before complaining and quitting. I understand you want to quit, but when it comes to kids, each caregiver has to establish trust and relationship with the child. I read a story to child's name and sat next to him until he slept. I've been working with kids for over 10 years now and strongly focus on their social developmental growth. If you're thinking of doing this in the long run, maybe consider taking some child development courses to help back up your statement, plan, and salary. Lastly, keep in mind, I used my gas to drop you off when technically I didn't have to. But good luck. Keep an eye out for that Venmo on the 15th. My thoughts. If money for gas is an issue, why not bring that up during the interview process? Don't act like I should be so grateful for the 5 minutes you spent driving me home when it was discussed in the terms of my employment. And for the childcare stuff? Oh boy. This has shown that working in a daycare does not make you competent enough to care for your own child. She completely ignored what I said about the iPad, but I expected that. Also, if we were to have a meeting to bring up issues, the only solution we could work towards would include changing her parenting, not me making adjustments to my childcare. A meeting between the two of us would not have helped her parenting or made my job better. I have a rant down below. Skip if you don't like to read long rants. She told me to take child development courses and that she's been working in childcare for 10 years. That's a bit ironic, as you would think someone who has the kind of education and experience would not send their child to bed with an iPad. I don't have formal education or experience in childcare. What I do have is experience working with children of a similar age who don't go to bed with an iPad, who don't throw food on the ground, and who don't slap or bite me. This child had little to no interest in playing or doing anything that wasn't his iPad or watching YouTube on the TV. He was hyper and starved for attention. He had no idea how to cope with the absence of extremely high levels of stimulation. I was hired under the impression that she would feed him dinner and bathe him, and I would put him to bed and sit in the living room for most of the night while she was at work. We agreed that I would provide my own transportation to work, but as I was getting off so late, 2 to 4 a.m., she would either drive me home or pay for an Uber or Lyft. My normal rate is $15 for an hour for one child. Her and I both live in one of the most expensive areas of the US. I've been consistently babysitting for over 3 years with several families, and I'm still very close with most of them. I've experience in childcare. I charged her below the market rate at $10 per hour because I thought I would be spending most of my time there, not directly caring for the child. She advertised the job as super easy, and it was not what was advertised. The kid would not eat dinner and then was nearly impossible to dress or brush his teeth. Any activity that didn't involve a screen was either boring or he would make it next to impossible to do by treating it like a game. Getting him dressed, time for him to roll around on the floor and grab his clothes and not let me take them off. Brushing teeth, time to bite his toothbrush for the next 20 minutes while I attempt to brush his teeth. I want to make it very clear that I'm not expecting to babysit an obedient robot. I'm aware that children are full of energy and aren't mini adults. My issue is with the obvious cause of his behavior. I try to implement positive redirection and validate his feelings. For example, I attempted to get him to stop biting his toothbrush by telling him, "Let's make silly faces in the mirror for 30 seconds, and then I need you to focus really hard for me so that we can brush your teeth." He went right back to biting his toothbrush after the silly faces. He refused to eat dinner. He expected to be able to play on his iPad during dinner. Of course, he wouldn't eat his dinner. He would just play on the iPad or watch YouTube. I would encourage him to eat and explain that he would be hungry later if he didn't. I tried making a game out of it. None of that worked. One night, he barely touched his dinner. During the night, he came out 4 times saying he was still hungry and he had not gotten any sleep at this point since he was in bed on his iPad. I fed him snacks and let him know that it was bedtime. He didn't end up falling asleep until around midnight. The next night, I decided to limit the technology during dinner so that he would actually eat. Over the next few hours, he ate maybe 5 bites of food. He hit and bit me. He threw food on the floor and he flung his body around. He would drop to the floor and bang his head on things or jump off the back of the couch. At one point, he stood up on the back of the couch and prepared to jump off. Before he jumped, he turned to me and asked, "Do you want me to die?" I was shocked. My best guess is that his warped perception of death is due to the playthrough styles of the video game videos he watches. I was about to call the mom and quit right then and there. Other things in that house made me uncomfortable, especially how she treated her dogs. She got one of her dogs registered as an emotional support animal. It's not. So that she could keep it in her apartment even though that breed of dog is not allowed. She told me she got a letter from her doctor saying she needs the dog for emotional support. She encouraged me to use a shock collar on the dog. No. She literally told me during the interview to put him to bed with his iPad. This child would emerge from his room at 11 p.m. complaining his iPad was dead and he was bored and not tired. I will admit, I was not perfect. I should have spoken up during the interviews and on drives home about certain things that made me uncomfortable, but speaking up about that felt like I would be criticizing her parenting. Judgment. There is a very old saying from the 16th century that goes, "The shoemaker's son always goes barefoot." It means that the family members of the skilled person are often the last to benefit from their expertise. In this case, it means that the mother, for all her expertise, can't fix or doesn't see the problems with her child. On a side note, take screenshots of her promise to pay you. I suspect that she will either forget the payment date, pay you in a different amount, or come up with an excuse to delay payment to another date. Also, someone with years and years of study of early development and experience here. Apart from the dependence on technology, I see huge red flags that the child may have ADHD or something similar. I hope this child may get help he may need. The mother could be in massive denial as well. I've seen it in child care educators when their own child is in care and they ignore what their child's educators are saying about their development. Glad you're out of there. Mother-in-law suggests that my partner is allergic to our new rescue dog to get him to spend time with her. My significant other, 27 male, and I, 26 female, are not married but have been in a serious relationship for 5 years. His mom has never really taken a liking to me. She's one of those people who doesn't have an interest in getting to know others and prefers talking about herself. Fine by me. I've given up on trying to build a solid mother-daughter relationship with her and now feed her as little information about our lives as possible. Overall, she's fine, just as annoying and does things like the title mentions every once in a while. The situation at hand? Significant other and I adopted a dog about a month ago. She is a 5-year-old rescue and the goodest girl. She has fit right into our lives and we couldn't be happier. This is something we've wanted to do for a while now, but every time it's been brought up in front of mother-in-law, she says something along the lines of, "Dogs are a big responsibility," or, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" We both have good jobs, consistent schedules, a pet-friendly living space, and plenty of love and time to devote to our doggo. Mother-in-law wasn't overly thrilled when we told her we brought our rescue home. Significant other always had purebred, hypoallergenic dogs growing up, whilst I had rescues. If it's not a $3,000 puppy, mother-in-law wants nothing to do with it. Of course, everyone is entitled to their preferences, but she is stuck on the idea that her baby boy deserves the best type of dog, and to her, that's not a rescue. Significant other has been feeling some symptoms of burnout from his job and some stressful life situations that have come up these last few weeks, fatigue being the most prominent. Significant other was talking about how exhausted he's been lately, and mother-in-law jumps right to it. "I think it's the dog. I bet you're allergic to her. You know, we never had dogs that would have amped your allergies up. Why don't you come stay with your dad and I and spend some time with your mama? Then we can know for sure that it's the dog." She was texting this to significant other while we were out to dinner with my family, and I lost it. She knew we were with them. She doesn't miss a chance to make a decision that significant other and I made mutually seem like a mistake and pin it on me. Not to mention, significant other has never shown any signs of being allergic to animals and has spent plenty of time around all kinds of dogs. Sure, this could be a one-off situation, but he has no telltale allergy symptoms, sneezing, puffy, itchy eyes, runny nose, etc. He's just tired. Significant other doesn't think it's our pup that is causing his fatigue, though he did entertain mother-in-law's thoughts for a moment. Luckily, he has a backbone and told her no. But still, I can't help but be annoyed. Judgment. She hates the idea of you two having a dog so much because it implied that you're making plans for the future together. She sees your dog responsibility as a premise of you having kids, something that she can't stand. It's another move that'll take her son away from her, and she's losing control as well. Am I in the wrong for wanting to break up with my girlfriend because she can't support us? I've been dating my girlfriend for 4 years now, both 24 female, and we've been living together for 3. I've been working 3 jobs all of my life, and she's only been working for the last 3 years. I make around $60,000 with my current and only full-time job. She makes $15,000 with her only part-time job. We both went to art school. She got an almost full ride and wealthy parents who paid for her tuition, while I went $200,000 in student loan debt. All of this together crafts my current problem. She is unbelievably talented, way more so than me or anyone I know, and she refuses to get a better paying or a full-time job. Every time I bring it up, she just says she wants to be a housewife and or doesn't wish to change her current job. I try to come up with fun job ideas that suit her, but she shuts them all down without considering them. I pay for a big portion of our rent. I pay for a lot of meals. Every few months she pays for groceries, or if we get fast food, she covers it. She's surprisingly well off. She saves up the money her parents give her and has a couple thousands in savings in case of an emergency for either of us. Together, we're technically not struggling for money yet. My student loan costs me $2,000 a month. Other things like car and rent drive my monthly cost of living up to $3,000. Soon, my government student loans will kick in and I will be making exactly what I spend on total loans. Because of her unstable financial situation, I know I will not be able to rely on her for support. If we or I don't start paying down the student loans quicker, they'll start to accrue and I'll owe $1 million by the time I'm 40. We are 40, hence the issue. If we get married, paying all that back will weigh on us both in one way or another. If I cannot rely on her financially to keep us afloat when I start struggling, but mainly if I can't rely on her to try, should I keep this relationship going? Am I the jerk for wanting a break from my boyfriend due to his mental health issues? My boyfriend, 28, of 2.5 years, has had depression for over 15 years. He's on medication, had therapy, etc., but there are ups and downs in his mood. We're at a point in our lives where we're both working towards a great career in the future, both in the same field. But it has meant a lot of moving around over the past year and a lot of long distance. We had some input into where we're placed and chose similarly to get some overlap. But that hasn't transpired because his mental health has kept him away from training. But this has meant that I've been on my own quite a lot when I was supposed to have his company. I understand that his mental health is a barrier to productivity, but because of geography, location of work, this means when his mental health is poor, I'm often suffering the consequences and being lonely. Moreover, I'm worried about him and our communication is totally broken because I know he feels disappointed in himself and doesn't tell me until he is late or I ask, and I'm physically too far away to offer the right comforts. I wish I could be totally empathetic and see beyond my own needs, but I'm repetitively being let down and can no longer trust that when he says, "I'll come tomorrow," that he will. I'm declining plans to visit friends, buying food to be wasted, and having my hopes dashed too often. Although I know he feels upset about his actions, he rationalizes them to himself to manage missing important training, but doesn't seem to consider the effect on me. I've raised this issue after finding myself dwelling and then being so angry by it, but don't feel like it's really being addressed whilst his mental health issues are ongoing, and I know from our friends and family that they think I'm losing out in the relationship and maybe deserve better. Do I need to get over myself as this is just an effect of poorly managed mental health? Or is this just totally selfish behavior? We hope you enjoyed today's stories. Use the comment section below to state your verdict on the situation, express your opinions, and share some valuable advice.